I just want to, I'm not starting yet. We're going to be 10 minutes late. Cogeco's got a couple of issues, so we'll be starting at 5:10, hopefully. My announcement a couple of minutes ago is invalid. Cogeco's up and running. So we're going to begin, and I want to welcome everyone to our committee of the whole meeting, and we'll get right going and understand there may be an amendment to the agenda tonight. Is there an amendment to the agenda?
In camera. Your in-camera item.
Yes, we have a second in-camera item.
Okay. So that'll be in camera.
And we'll just confirm that's disposition of land, correct? Correct.
Disposition of land. Okay. Is there any disclosure of monetary interest from committee rising from the agenda? Okay. So we have two delegations, and I want to welcome Tom Ayres, our friend Tom Ayres, from the Coalition of Marguerite Street Taxpayers for installation of trunk storm water drainage. And we look forward to your presentation, Tom, and welcome.
Thank you, Councillor. My name is Tom Ayres, and I live at 14 Marguerite Street here in Smiths Falls, and I've lived at 14 Marguerite for 32 years. First of all, I'd like to thank council for the opportunity for our community to present our request for the installation of a buried trunk stormwater drainage service on Marguerite Street. And at this time, too, I'd like to introduce to you some of our committee members who are here tonight. And they're not in order of seniority or age. I'd like to introduce Claudette and Brian Suffel. Also Bonnie and Phil Heppy. And also, last but not least, Wendell Kitch. Our committee has met at least 3 times just to put together a package for you and to describe to you what we're putting up with right now as far as the drainage goes on Marguerite Street. Most of the council members have a package, I believe, that was sent out to all the council members, and I trust that you have read it. And my question to you right now is, do you want me to go through the entire package, or should I just give you a brief presentation of each page?
I'll ask committee. I certainly read it.
Yeah, I would say for the public, it'd be where we.
Yeah, I think for the people here and the press is here as well, so if we could go through whatever your presentation is,
Please
Tom.
do, thank you.
Yep.
Okay, to begin with our presentation, we prepared a short pictorial slide collection of each individual's property on Marguerite Street so that council members may see and understand our current stormwater drainage situations and the degree of slope in each of the ditches in front of our homes. So now, if you don't mind, I'll just mosey over here to the computer and click on. I've introduced our committee members. And as you can see on the screen, this is 243 Wood Avenue. This is at the corner of Wood Avenue and Marguerite Street. And as you can see, yes, I have it here. I have the pointer. It shows the ditch here. And the water drains from the side down to the ditch. And then it flows this way down towards Wood Avenue into another ditch and takes it back in behind Wood Avenue. I must comment too about this property is owned by Gene and Wendell Kitch. And it's one of the nicest properties, I believe, in the town of Smiths Falls. Jean is very, very meticulous, and she takes pride in her property. As you can see, the side yard, 243 Wood Avenue, this is where the water flows, and as you can see by the texture of the grass that Jean knows what she's doing. Jean also cuts the grass as well, too, and she does a great job. Now, getting back to the corner of Allen and Marguerite Street, we have the home of Claudette and Brian. Brian is also very good. Brian likes to ride his lawnmower. And he has a grass cutting lawnmower that he takes pride in, because he also takes care of the property beside him as well. Only on 1 or 2 occasions have I seen that Brian, on the other side of the embankment here, he got stuck on his riding lawnmower, so we had to call in some help to get the lawnmower off the edge of the property. Across the street we have Phil and Bonnie's house. A beautiful home, beautifully manicured, well taken care of. You can see that there's pride in ownership of our properties. Next home at 13 Marguerite. This is Dennis and Karen Kolak. Well-kept property. Once again, we have the drainage ditches. About 15 years ago, we had a flash flood. And the flash flood, the water was up to the bank here. They had 2 boys, and the boys were doing laps back and forth in the ditch. Other than that, great piece of property. This is our property here at 14 Marguerite. As you can see here, this is where the Bell Telephone came in, and they were putting in cable, I believe, or fiber cable. And as you can see at each of the properties, thank you, each of the properties we had these cement embankments, which I guess adds to the appearance of the property. We also have the lights at the lamp lights at the end of the property as well too, so that adds also a piece of the appearance of the property as well. At 16 Marguerite, Heidi and Richard Pescott live. In our submission too, we talked about the slope of the ditches. This is pretty extreme. And 9 times out of 10, Heidi will be out there cutting the grass. Heidi is a small lady, about 5 foot tall, about 110 pounds maybe. Heidi is pushing this lawnmower up and down these slopes. Incredible. And on the side as well too, this is the side corner of Marguerite and Wood Avenue. And once again, you can see the water drains down this side of the ditch, flows underneath Marguerite Street over to Gene Kinch's property, and then from there flows down to another ditch that takes the water across back into the ponds at the back behind Wood Avenue. And that's the end of our slide presentation. Carrying on from our submission to you, we presented the history of Marguerite Street and Wood Avenue, housing developments from 1987 to the early years of 2000. All of these homes built were of quality construction and provided to their homeowners a feeling of contentment. They were very, very happy with their homes. As the years have progressed, our neighborhood has experienced a tremendous increase in traffic volume because of other housing subdivisions being developed on Ferreira Drive, Harold Street, and Wood Avenue. With this increased volume of traffic, children playing on the streets, street hockey, tag, riding their bikes, and as well as seniors from the Willowdale Retirement Home walking up and down the street avenue, Wood Avenue and Marguerite Street, there is the potential for serious injury and loss of life. Fortunately, we have not had that as of yet, but it's still a potential. Another factor that has contributed to the increased traffic volume is the newly built St. Francis de Sales School and the Child Care Center. Also, many buses travel up and down our road on a daily basis during school years. Safety concerns were also expressed regarding the cutting of grass in the ditches in front of their respective homes, and I've already illustrated that to you, especially for Heidi Pescott's home. Very, very dangerous. I also may mention to you that there are quite a few homes on Wood Avenue, too, that have very, very steep ditches. And at one point, somebody was suggesting that you get a lawnmower, you tie a rope to it, and you just drop it down and then pull it back up. That's one way of cutting the grass. On December the 9th, 2019, at a Committee of the Whole meeting, it was recommended to Council by the Planning Advisory Committee that an application for a new subdivision, Maple Ridge, be granted for approval. And with this new subdivision, it was proposed that a new storm trunk drainage system be installed to service the new lots. It was also mentioned that in order for the subdivision to go through, that, I've lost my place here, that a new drainage system will also be required on Wood Avenue between Armstrong Street and Marguerite Street to handle the drainage from the new Maple Ridge development. Cost for this new stormwater drainage system would also include the filling of the ditches and the removal of the cement and brick structures at the end of each driveway. For the benefits of installing a new stormwater drainage system, that was part of our presentation as well too. And just to briefly present that to you, the benefits to us on Marguerite Street, homeowners would be delighted that they were now treated in the same manner as the residents on Wood Avenue because they now have a new storm drainage system. The resale values of their homes will increase based upon an improved curb appeal. Right now, if you have people that are looking for homes and they drive down our street, Marguerite Street, onto Wood Avenue, they see the ditches. I think in their own minds, they're wondering to themselves, well, if I buy this house, what happens in 5-10 years down the road? If we still have ditches, will this house be as attractive to somebody who doesn't have a ditch? I would think the latter. The assessed values of the homes will also increase resulting in greater tax revenues to the town. You increase the curb appeal, the curb value, you levy the tax rate, you get more taxes. Also, there's the reduction in the potential for liability claims against the town for personal injury or death caused to homeowners, their children, or other citizens. I was speaking to an elderly couple today from Willowdale who were out for a walk, and quite often I see these individuals, they're walking just to get out and get their exercise. And I asked them, I spoke to them today, and I asked them, you know, do you worry about falling down? No, we walk down the middle of the road. Well, what happens if you were walking down the side of the road? If a car was going by and you're walking, well, we never thought of that. I said, are you worried that you might fall in? Well, yeah, sure we are. That's from 2 retired seniors. And the last but not least is that once you do the work on Wood Avenue by installing new underground stormwater drainage, here's the chance to also do it at Marguerite Street. Because instead of putting a shovel twice in the ground, if in fact you do Marguerite Street, you're saving money now. You're doing one project at the same time, 2 projects with 1 shovel. And that is my presentation, and I welcome your questions, your comments.
Thanks, Tom. I'll open it up to committee now for some questions, and Councillor Dwyer's first.
Thank you. Thanks, Tom. Thanks for
You're
coming.
welcome. You're welcome.
It's nice to see you and the residents of Marguerite Street. You raised some valid points, some of which we've heard over the years and some of which are new, and certainly the changes that are being seen in that subdivision are bringing this to the forefront at a very rapid pace. I don't think there was a great deal of discussion about filling in the storm ditches in the last staff report that came forward for Wood Avenue. So I'm looking at staff to confirm whether or not another staff report to deal with this question will be coming forward. And I'm wondering what staff's sense, and I'm looking at Troy because I assume it's Troy, but I'm wondering what staff's sense is on dealing with Marguerite and Wood separately versus together, because to me they represent the same discussion.
Okay, I think CO Morris wants to add something before Troy.
Yeah, thank you, Mr. Chair. I think if we were to receive direction from council after the presentation, we can come back with a report. We haven't prepared one at this point.
Okay.
But we can certainly deal with this issue in isolation as well as integration with the new residential area. So we could bring that back in the next couple of weeks if that were the wishes of council.
Okay, I guess to Troy. Troy, do you see these as 2 separate issues, or do you see them as something that merits discussion collectively?
Through the chair, in my discussions with Tom and other residents in the neighborhood, there's a lot of merits in certainly looking at the design of Marguerite Street with the Wood Avenue upgrade. The trunk will be going right along by it. It's a natural addition to the drainage area that's being served. There's economies of scale in getting 1 Ministry of Environment approval as opposed to 2. Certainly from a detailed design perspective, there's also opportunities to group the designs together. So there's a lot of logic in looking at the 2 together. I think one of the challenges is binding ourselves to commit to a cost yet with,
Right.
which to a project that may not evolve in 2020, but perhaps 2021 or later. So.
Right. And Mr. Chair,
Yes.
2 more questions. 1 point, 1 question. Troy, that's all I have for you. Thank
Okay,
you.
good.
Mr. Arias, the bulk of your requests tonight seems to be around infilling those ditches and replacement with a trunk line. Is that as far as the residents want to see it go, or is the expectation that the roadway would be finished as an urban local road?
That roadway is over 30 years old.
Yes.
I have some concerns about the amount of traffic that is going down Wood Avenue right now. It's heavy equipment that's going down that road. It has been for about the past 2 years. I would think that if you're going to replace the road, I would consider Wood Avenue first. And yet also on Marguerite, at the corner of Marguerite and Wood Avenue, beside Wendell's property, we now have potholes. The traffic, sometimes buses fly down that road, turning left to turn onto Marguerite to go down to Brockville Street. So I would welcome a new road as well.
Okay. My question, to clarify my question, it was more about finishing the road, asphalt aside, to look more like an urban corridor, so sidewalks, curbing, that type of thing.
We had suggested curbing
Okay,
on Wood Avenue for the new developments that have gone in by Parkview. I believe that they have a sidewalk on one side and a curb on the other side.
correct.
And I think that's a standard practice.
So your expectation would be that the
Yes,
town
yes,
look
it would
at
be.
sidewalks?
Yes, it would
Okay,
be.
thank you. I guess at this point, I mean, beyond receiving the information, which has been helpful, I really look forward to seeing a more robust discussion from staff to kind of provide some background and merit to some of the points that are raised in this. To me, a lot of it comes down to cost, and I'm wary of the fact that if we agree to fill in ditches in your beautiful neighborhood, that we will very soon get the request from others, and I think we need to be cognizant of that. I mean, certainly there's a reason that local improvement charges are around, whether or not there's some amount of cost sharing that can go to this. You've admitted yourself, there's economic benefit to yourselves, the price of your property will inflate, cost of maintenance is gonna go down, so something like that, I think, warrants at least a discussion at the council level.
Mr. Chair, if I may comment as well, too. Today I took a drive down Hershey Drive. I believe Hershey Drive does have ditches. So I think there are two streets in the town who have ditches. One is Hershey Drive, an industrial complex, and Marguerite Street. I don't know how this got passed by the ministry, by the town, but anyways, I guess there was some encouragement to go ahead with this housing development on Marguerite. It was approved, and now we have a situation where the ditches are not very beneficial to the homeowners.
Councilor McKenna?
Thanks for the presentation, and thank you all for coming out. You've raised some really good information, and I don't speak for my colleagues, but I'd welcome, it might take more than a couple of weeks, but I think in the next month or so, staff could come back with the whole picture, because we've heard there's a whole technical side and a costing side. So I would welcome in the next month or so to, this is not urgent or pressing. We wouldn't want to go ahead on any other development until we either looked at this or answered the questions. But I think if my colleagues agree, I think asking staff to come back with some more detail on this would be really beneficial to me. So thank you again.
I certainly appreciate it, Mr. McKenna. Thank you.
Okay, thanks. Your worship?
I agree with my colleagues. I think it's something that we need to get some feedback on, some understanding, and I appreciate the realities that it's an environment that is quite unique in our community. I know that the current state of affairs, if you have cars parked along the curbs, you're forcing people to the middle of the street to walk. It's not a great environment, and I agree it's hard to understand how it would have happened when it was approved years ago, but it still comes down to the realities that we have a whole community to serve. And this project would bring great merit to the homeowners there and some merit to the entire community. So it's a matter of understanding, I guess, the opportunities and the costs related to that. So, but I support the request for further details from staff.
Thank you, Your Worship.
Councilor Alfred?
Yes, and I'm happy to see all of you here again, or here. Tom's been diligent in making sure this didn't get through the cracks, so and I appreciate that effort. I do very much support having a report from our staff, but I also want to make sure that we don't create an expectation, as Councillor Dwyer said, because there are many priorities and we don't know the costs of anything, and there are many roads, streets in town that don't even have sidewalks. So I just want to be mindful of what our priorities could be given that project versus the number of other projects that are wanting and as old as yours.
Yes.
So I just want to be mindful of what the expectations could be, and I would have no opinion until I could see the cost.
I appreciate
but
that. Thank you.
Yes, I
Thank you,
appreciate
Councillor.
you being here, all of you.
Okay, oh, thanks, Tom.
Just one last comment.
Yeah, I've got a comment too.
Okay, I'd like to also thank your staff, Janet Casale, for her assistance as far as the financial information. And also Nadine Bennett for your assistance, Nadine. introducing us to the computer and how to operate the computer. And also to Troy Dunlop. Troy, you've been really helpful, so thank you so much.
Yeah, so, I think that, my question is this, how many homes on Marguerite Street need to be addressed with this matter?
6 properties.
6 properties. And I would think that there's probably, I don't know how many homes there are in Wood, but
29.
29, thank you, you knew that. So for an extra 6, we're going to be, I think Troy said it very well, economies of scale and that sort of thing. And this was way before my time, when I was alive, but but my time here when Wood Avenue was developed. But anecdotally, I've been told that, at the time the town had some issues with water treatment and wastewater, and there was no development going to happen unless that was the way it was going to happen. So, and the council at the time wanted to build houses and have people live here. So now's the time to maybe we can address that. And I certainly support having staff have a look at it for 6 properties. I think, I look forward to that discussion anyway, and I thank you for coming.
Thank you, sir. I appreciate it.
Yep,
Thank you.
thank you. Okay. We are moving along, and we have Robin Hall here, our education coordinator from the Alzheimer's Society of Lanark, Leeds, Grenville, and welcome. This is an annual visit, I think.
Yes,
Or
it
Louise
is.
was
I
here
hope.
before, yeah.
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 Thank you so much for having me.
And I forgot to wear my tie.
Oh, that's okay. I got the
Yes.
scarf on. We got lots more if you want them. We got scarves, we got socks, we have ties. So yes, thank you so much for having me here today. We're rounding up our awareness month this year with the Alzheimer's Society, and I feel very privileged to be here to be able to talk to you guys today briefly about our organization and what our Awareness Month is. It's very important for us to get the word out, and Awareness Month is one of the big opportunities for us to get the word out about our organization and about the disease itself. So we are the Alzheimer's Society Lanark, Leeds, Grenville. We are a nonprofit organization and a registered charity that's partially funded by the government. Our mission statement is to alleviate the personal and social consequences of Alzheimer's disease and related dementia, and to promote the search for a cause and a cure. And our vision is a world without Alzheimer's disease, which don't we all wish for that to happen someday and someday soon. To let you guys know a little bit about our organization, and this is a big thing for us because we hear quite often from people, I didn't know about you guys. I didn't realize that there was an organization out there for people living with all forms of dementia. And we want to let people know, yes, we are out there. We are out there for you. We are out there for our community. So just for the sake of time, I'll go over some of our major programs and services. Our first and foremost that we are absolutely proud of is our Adult Day program. This is a program for people in our community who have any form of dementia. We offer them all over Lanark County and parts of Leeds, Grenville. So Smith Falls has its own program here, including Perth, Almont, and Carlton Place. It's a social program for those who have the disease, and it's an amazing opportunity for the caregiver to have respite. We can't stress enough that caregivers only get a minimum amount of time of in-home respite, and it's not enough for them. So this way they can bring their loved one to our Adult Day program, and they get a nice chunk of the day to do whatever it is that they need to do. So 9:30 in the morning till 3 o'clock in the afternoon is when our clients are with us. And to also note that our program is an amazing social program for those with the disease. I just got done doing an education session at a retirement home today, and that's what they wanted to know about. What can I do, Robin, to keep my brain healthy? And that's the biggest thing I said to them is socialization. So it's an amazing program for the people with a dementia to keep working and using their brain to keep it as healthy as possible. On top of that, it says weekend respite. We like to say now it's extended stay respite. So it was Friday till Sunday. We've extended this program now to Monday afternoon. So in our Smith Falls site, the old high school, we have 3 rooms available for people with this disease. So if there is a family member who's needing maybe a little bit of an extra break, or let's say they want to travel somewhere, but they know it's going to be too stressful for their loved one, they can make an appointment to have their loved one stay with us for a weekend. So we like to say they get spoiled. It's 3 clients to 2 staff for the whole weekend. So we do our best to make them as comfortable as possible. On top of this, we offer support groups and individual support for caregivers. They often do feel alone with this disease. They do lose connection with family and friends because, unfortunately, the stigma of the disease is still out there. And once again, I want to thank you for letting me be here because we're working hard against that stigma. So they can go to a group where they know they're around people who understand what they're going through, and they can learn from each other and be there for each other. Going down the list, we have a new program. It's our First Link Care Navigators. So the Alzheimer's Societies across Ontario did receive funding for this program. And this is your first point of contact with the Alzheimer's Society. So any programs and services that somebody may need will meet with our First Link Care Navigator face-to-face. And she'll help people, point them in the direction, whether it's our programs and services or other services in our community. Just to quickly go through a few more, there's lots of different forms of education, which is my job. I joke around that I'm a good talker, so I love doing the education position and being out. I either train people, healthcare professionals. I do training for caregivers to understand the disease better so they can handle it better within the home. We have programs to help keep people healthy. So we have a Minds in Motion program that brings in exercise and cognitive exercise for people who have the disease in their caregiver. So I can't say enough of all the programs and services that we have. And when I say that they're here for the community, I mean it. You don't necessarily, yes, you have the disease, come see us. If it's a spouse or a mother or father, yes, come see us. But I also tell people, you know what? You can be a neighbor. You can be a friend. You can know somebody with this disease, and we are here for you. We're here for our community, and we want to help people who need the help. I do have to put this little last plug in before I move on to the next slide. The bottom is our Blue Umbrella Dementia Friendly Community Program. This is our program that I do with all the businesses and organizations. I go in, I educate them on the disease and help give them little tips on communication and how to help people with the disease. So people in the community who have dementia know that when they see our Blue Umbrella sign in the window, that that's a safe business or organization that they can go into, that those people inside that room or inside that building have been trained to help somebody out with this disease. We don't want to see people in our community isolated at home because they feel that they can't go anywhere. Just make sure I'm keeping good with the time here. I'm going to skip this slide and jump down to some statistics here. So right now in Canada, 564,000 Canadians are living with the dementia. I apologize on the third point down. It says in the next 15 years. Honestly, it's about in the next 10 or 11. That statistic's going to raise to about 937,000. So this is an age-related disease that we're looking at, and there is the population, the baby boomer population is getting bigger, and in the slide before that, the statistic was saying 1 in 13 over the age of 65 are at risk of getting this disease. So like I mentioned, it's age-related, and that's why we're seeing the numbers increase. So once again, there's people out there that do need our help, and that's why we're here for them. A little bit about dementia. People come to me all the time. They say, what is dementia and how is Alzheimer's disease related? A dementia is basically an umbrella term. It's not necessarily a diagnosis, but it's something that people get. They have to go and get further testing to find out what form of dementia it is they have. And Alzheimer's disease is under this umbrella. So it's a form of dementia, but there's many other forms out there. So testing is really important. I can tell you it is the most prevalent. About 60 to 65% of the dementias out there are Alzheimer's disease. but there's just listed a few more up there, so you can see vascular dementia, frontal temporal dementia, Lewy body. There's a very long, long list, so we always encourage people to go get testing if they're concerned about their memory. And now I'm just moving on now quickly to what our campaign is this year, and it has been for the last few years. So it is, I live with dementia, let me help you understand. And I love this campaign slogan because it is finding champions all across Canada to stand up and say, yes, I have dementia, or yes, I care for somebody with dementia. This is what we're going through, and I want you to understand what we're going through. We don't want to have to hide in the shadows of this stigma. We want to be out there and communicating with people with this disease. I am going to just, if it's okay, read just a couple of quotes, and I encourage anybody to go on Alzheimer's.ca, that's Alzheimer's Society Canada, where you will find our campaign, and I can't tell you how many people have came out and talked about their experiences. So one quote here, this is Lynn in Quebec, and it's her husband that was diagnosed with Alzheimer's, and actually at quite a young age, at 63. So the lack of understanding and fear of Alzheimer's disease creates discomfort and sadness, against which people tend to walk away and forget about us. We feel isolated, which makes our situation worse. It feels like living in a world where we're excluded. And I can't tell you how many times I've heard that in support groups where people feel that they don't have anybody to go to because people don't know what to do and don't know what to say. This one in particular, though, is very, I find, empowering. So this gentleman out of Ontario at the age of 69 was diagnosed in 2016 with Lewy body dementia. And this is what he says: you can't be afraid. You can be afraid, but it won't help. It adds nothing. So to the extent I can, I go to continue to live my life in ways that look like how I've lived before. I really like that one. I get to meet people who get the diagnosis and come into our office, and that's exactly what they'll say to me. You know what? Okay, this is the card I've been dealt. How can I live my life best with it? So to know that there's people out there that are taking it face on to live the best life that they can. That's the end of my presentation. I could talk for hours, but once again, I can't thank you enough for having me here today, and I welcome any questions.
Thanks so much, Robin. You have a lot of passion and
Thank you, yes.
heart.
Yeah.
Thank you. Any questions? Councillor Allen?
No, not a question. Just thank you very much, Robin, for sharing this with us. I don't think there are many families in Smiths Falls that haven't been touched in some way with dementia, but the fact that you're doing this and making us more aware of how we can help is really a good thing for our community. The blue, I had not heard of the blue umbrella, and so I'll watch for that and I'll promote that because that's a great idea.
Absolutely. And to be honest, I work with the businesses. I will come before hours, after hours, during lunch. It takes about an hour to an hour and a half. And it is a great, we do our best too. When they get the education, we promote them as well because they're helping the people in our community. And it's only fair enough that they get that recognition. Actually, if you go around town, even downtown, there's about 3 businesses downtown that either have in their window or in their business an actual big umbrella for awareness. We started that last year to really make it stick out there that, yes, you've been trained and you are a safe place for people with dementia.
Well, thank you for the good work you do.
Thank you.
Councillor McKenna?
Thanks very much, Robin. I also want to encourage people, it says partially funded by the LIN, and I know that your local society is a registered charity, and I encourage people to reach into their pocket and give generously.
Thank you.
I would also, under your leader, Louise Noble, I know you provide great services, but the Alzheimer's Society is also a wonderful partner in the healthcare system. They're at every table trying to improve the health system, and Louise just does a terrific job. So there's so much to your organization. It's more than delivering services. So
Yes.
thank you for that, and best luck this month.
Thank you so much. And just to add on that, Like us on Facebook. All our fundraising events are on there. Bobby Jo White is our fund development coordinator. She puts on some fantastic events. They're a lot of fun. And yes, the money that's raised stays for our local programs and services. And yeah, we love working with our other healthcare organizations to work together to make this a better community. Thank you.
Councillor Alford.
Thanks very much, Robin. As Jay has said, your passion for this shows in the way you talk about it. I would just offer that I also sit on the DBA committee, which is, we have 140 members in downtown core of Smiths Falls.
Okay.
And this sounds like something that perhaps we could be helpful to you. So I would suggest that I will have, if you leave your card, I'll have our DBA coordinator get in touch with you and see if we can help.
Wonderful. That'd be wonderful. Thank you so much. I appreciate that.
Thank you.
I think Mayor Panko has something here.
Sure. Thanks, Robin. Just a question.
Yeah.
Do doctors, medical professionals make referrals to you? How do people find out how to find you?
That's a wonderful question. Some doctors can refer to us, but people walk in. So, like I mentioned, we're all over Lanark, Leeds, and Grenville. So we have an office here in Smiths Falls at the old high school. However, it's a bit tricky. It's not the 2 Gould Street address. It's actually entering the back side, so you would take Elmsley Street. So people in our town can come and see us there. Our Perth office, which is in Lanark Lodge, is open 5 days a week. We encourage people to give us a call ahead of time if they're popping in, but sometimes people just come in and they need us right then and there, and we encourage that too for people to walk in and see us, so they can phone us, email us, or walk in.
Well, thank you. And I mean, there's so many resources, far more than I was even aware of. And obviously, the more people that are aware what you do and how you can help, the more you're going to serve the needs of people in our community. And as Councillor Allen said, I mean, dementia affects probably each and every one of us. I'm sure we all have family and loved ones who have had dementia, Alzheimer's, and if not, many of us will face it in our own lives at some point in time. So thank you for all you do. You may be aware that back on January 13th, I made a proclamation about Alzheimer's Month for the town of Smiths Falls. Just want to give you a copy.
Oh, thank you so much.
Thanks for all you do, and
Thank you.
keep up the effort.
That's wonderful. Thank you so
Thank you, Robin.
much. Thank you.
Thanks, Robin. So moving along, we have no adoption of minutes. Are there any CAO or director's reports this evening?
Yes, looks like we have several. Starting with Mr. Manhire, because he's closest to the mic.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Just a couple of quick pieces. Winter Carnival is going to be held the 16th and 17th of February. There will be a schedule come out by the end of this week. We are working with local service clubs and businesses to put that on. The outdoor rink, if we can get people to stay off it for the next day or so, it's not in bad shape right now, but it's a bit soft. We're expecting some cooler weather, so if we can stay off it for the next day or two, we'll have a much better surface to work from. So just asking the public's help in that. And then the CDC, we are dealing with providing service during the rotating teacher strikes. So there is another one expected on Wednesday, and there is service available, so anybody who is in a position where they need care should contact our child care center.
Good information. Any questions? Nope, seeing no, thank you. Who's next? Director Dunlop.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Just 2 updates for the committee this evening. I just wanted to provide an update on the Beckwith Street project. Financially, I'd like to report that our expenditures on the project were $746,000 plus HST to December 31st. So we're approaching 10% of the spending on the contract to date. Our net extras so far, so that's the balance of both our extras and our credits right now, stands at 7,000. So we're trending less than 1% in our extras to date. In terms of construction, last week we did have some setbacks. We had scheduled a some cuttings and cappings of the existing water mains on Beckwith Street in the intersection of Main Street, but we weren't successful in getting a shutdown in the overnight hours. But we regrouped with Thompson's crew and we rescheduled, and with a broader shutdown, we were able to complete the activity on Thursday night last week, so we're pleased to get through that. As a result, the second crew's mobilized to the site, so they're set up in the Main Street intersection, and they will be fairly quickly moving northward out of that intersection. We're forecasting that by end of day Friday, we're hoping that Main Street will be open to traffic by that point. Second update for this evening, we received notices from the city, actually from Kingston Utilities, advising that they're doing a biogas and biosolids master plan. The goal of that study is to enhance their wastewater treatment and look to essentially reduce greenhouse gas emissions. They have digestion as part of their processes in numerous sites there, and of course methane is 35 times more potent than carbon dioxide, so there's a move afoot to try and reduce that impact environmentally. And they're also looking at methane gas to see if there's opportunities to harness that for the production of energy, etc. There may be regional solutions as part of that activity, hence they've invited municipalities in their perimeter to attend the session on Thursday night. So I'll be attending to try and learn more about that study. There's some of the initiatives that they are doing do dovetail with our service review and our long-term direction in how we manage and handle biosolids. So we want to learn how Kingston's tackling it to see if there's some best practices we can look to locally.
Thanks, Director. Any questions? Councillor McKenna?
I understand the methane, because when we went through the tour, I understand that. And I just want to be sure on the biosolids, that's the product that we're actually could be bagging and going out at the end of the day to the farmers or whoever. That's the biosolid you're referring to about?
Yeah, through the chair, we're a little different than everyone else because we have the pelletization process. We create an actual fertilizer product that is actually regulated by the Canadian Food Inspection Agency. Everyone else around us produces a biosolid that's regulated under the at the provincial level, and of course most of that material is digested and then later spread on farmers' field for agricultural purposes. So looking back at our process, one of the things we've learned is our drying methods. We do burn off our methane, so we do not produce methane because we don't have digestion at the site. We're moving to dewatering right into the dryers in the pelletizer. But we're using a tremendous amount of natural gas as part of that drying process, and that was something that was identified in Honeywell's audit of the site, an area that we need to improve. And again, we know from our service review we got to move towards technologies that are more efficient in reducing the water content as part of our drying process, and our belt press might not be our long-term solution for that.
Any other questions? Seeing none. Chief Cheeseborough has a report for us.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Just three quick items to bring to your attention. We did receive compliance notification from the province with regards to our emergency management. The certificate is to follow. I can tell you that this year was probably far more difficult than it's been in the last number of years dealing with the province of Ontario. Certainly, a great deal of credit needs to go to our Deputy Clerk, Nadine Bennett, for struggling and working her way through the paperwork and dealing back and forth. But we should be getting that notification within the next couple of weeks, being sent to the Mayor and Council. The second item I have is we have taken on 5 new volunteer firefighters. They started at the end of the last year. We've got 3 that are fully trained. We've got 2 that are going through the process, so that brings our numbers back up to close to where they should be. And the last item I have is I was approached last fall from Lanark County Social Services. and they were looking to see if we would have the capacity to take on an individual for an hour and a half a week. They could provide assistance working around the fire trucks, either washing them or helping load them or doing some other things that we have within the fire hall. And my immediate response was absolutely. This provides some worth and some assistance to this individual. He's now been with us over the last 5 weeks. Just an exceptional young man. His heart and his soul is in the fire service. He can't wait to get up and get in here on his Wednesday for an hour and a half. He does come with a caseworker, but hopefully over the next few months, he'll progress to the fact where he can be dropped off. I will tell you that he is totally covered through Lanark County with WSIB. He has all his registration and forms that he's submitted in. So we're pretty proud. He's taken to the guys, and the guys have taken to him. So it's quite an added addition to our department. That's all I have.
Thank you, Chief. Any questions, comments? Great news. Thank you. Malcolm, sorry, CEO
Thank you,
Morris.
Mr. Chair, for noticing me.
He told me. He has
Just,
a point.
I'd like to start with a correction. Earlier in the meeting, I said that the second in-camera item was a disposition of land. It's not. It's litigation or potential litigation. So for the record, that's the reason we've added the second item, or the content of the second item. So my second item is just a reminder that this Wednesday evening at the Memorial Community Center, second floor, we have a open house for the downtown parking management study that's been underway since last autumn. The consultant, J.L. Richards, have assembled a lot of data. They've done a lot of research, and they want to present the preliminary findings of that study. There's still much work to be done, and get some input from the community as well. So that's this Wednesday, 7 to 9, second floor at the Memorial Community Center. We welcome and encourage people to attend. It's a
And
very
council as well.
significant study, and we want to get it right before we bring it before this committee sometime in the spring.
Okay.
Thank you.
Thanks for that. Any questions? No? And that's it for director's reports. And we have no correspondence, so I'll entertain a motion to go in camera. Councillor Allen, second by Councillor Alford, all in favor? We'll be back.
pushed back the meeting last week, eh? So I didn't get any.
Okay. Let's see if, I don't know what their schedule's like this week. Yeah, they get Pierre's ball too, and we can just get it in this. Brainstorm a bit and go with the politics of the other side.
It's a. It'd be good though.
Yeah, we gotta go beyond the facts. That's we gotta get it.
Tell a good story.
I'll bring Loretta, I guess Loretta's at home. I'll bring Loretta, she's at home.
Okay, yeah. I had to fix her rosary on Sunday.
Yeah.
Okay, we'll get going again. Our Rise and Report, we had two in-camera items this evening. One dealt with disposition of land, and the other one dealt with potential litigation, and staff updated the committee on both of those matters. So that's the Rise and Report. So now we'll get into our priority items. And new cost recovery bylaw is with Chief Cheeseborough.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Tonight's report deals with a bylaw, the replacement and amending of a bylaw for a standalone bylaw that's currently in place for cost recovery. In 2018, I stood before council, and council approved entering into an agreement with Fire Marquee for cost recovery purposes. As you'll see inside the report, that since that time, and most recently as a result, an insurance company has challenged the wording in the various bylaws concerning cost recovery that other municipalities have in place. And in fact, the court ruled that Fire Marquee was correct in their wording and did award the decision to Fire Marquee. Subsequently, the insurance company challenged that on an appeal, and the appeals court ruled in favor of the insured and the insurance company. So in order to ensure that when we are submitting claims to insurance companies for various cost recovery, we had to put in specific wording. This wording was forwarded to our lawyer, as well as Fire Marquee had contracted Templeman to review it, and have attached their letter supporting the wording in the report to ensure that if residents do receive payment directly from the insurance company, that they must remit that back to the municipality. If not, then the municipality can apply that to their municipal taxes until such time is collected.
Okay, thanks. Any questions? Sounds like a housekeeping item for us to complete, and are we going to complete that this evening? Good. So that'll come up at the next council meeting, and you're still on with emergency planning management program and emergency management policy.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. As previously discussed when I was advising council, yourself and council, that we'd received our compliance for 2019. Part of the compliance requirement under the Emergency Management Civil Protection Act was to have a specific bylaw for an emergency management program and emergency plan. Within that bylaw is exactly what we have when we submitted the bylaw for our plan. However, emergency management had indicated that they wanted a separate bylaw incorporating all the things that we currently have in the plan. And this has been in place for some time. Anyway, we went ahead and incorporated that into the plan, covering various training exercises, different plans, identifying the critical infrastructure. Again, all these items that are currently identified in the plan. So before you tonight, I'm requesting that council adopt and approve the proposed bylaw with regards to the emergency program plan.
Thank you. Any questions? And we're going to do that for you this evening. Moving right along, CIP application for funding, 14 William Street, planner Grinke.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Good evening, committee. The first report I have to bring this evening is a recommendation from the CIP Evaluation Committee for an application under Program 1 for 14 William Street West. The applicant is Pat Barlow. So council will recall that in September an application was presented to committee for seeking CIP funding to accommodate a number of facade and exterior improvement changes for this property. It's a property that it previously contained a restaurant, but historically has been also residential use and currently being renovated as a duplex. So committee had directed a number of changes to the application and was asking that the applicant undertake some revisions to bring it more in line with the evaluation guidelines. So a revised application was submitted in December and supported in principle by the CIP Evaluation Committee. But just to quickly summarize, the application does propose brickwork changes, the repairs to the soffits and fascia, front and side windows to be replaced, existing stained glass windows to be repaired, a chipboard covering the former doorway to be replaced with a fantail design to complement the arched brickwork, and the applicant is proposing to look at that if possible in the former doorway and a few other changes. The CIP committee feels that this is an enhanced proposal from what was there before. It's focused more on the items that are closer to the or more visible from the road, and they've given their approval. I'd also like to acknowledge the work of especially the work of the coordinator of economic development, Becky Allen, and planning coordinator Mary Remig for the work that they've done on this file and the liaison with the applicant over the course of the last few months. So for council's consideration, I'm presenting the CIP committee's recommendation for funding.
Thank you, planner Grinke. Councillor Dwyer?
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Carl, I love it. I think it looks great, and I think it's a huge improvement from where we were. So thank you to Becky and Mary for going back to take a second stab at this, because I think it much better reflects not only the mandate of the program, but the design guidelines that are in place. And I think it's a good example of what you can show to future applicants to show kind of what really makes the difference. I love the new design of the former doorway. I think it's appropriate for the context of the building, and I see Irv smiling, so I'm sure he's happy too. The only thing I will note is that on page 6 of the report, there's a note underneath the dormer windows that notes that the grills on each pane can be configured as shown or as 3x3 window mullions. I would think that 3x3 would be more appropriate if there's opportunity for that. But otherwise, I think it looks great, and kudos to you guys. Your hard work really paid off on this one.
Councillor Allen?
No, I was very pleased with how this came back to us. This program is so important to our community, especially buildings like this. This building has sat in disrepair for a very long time. And the fact that it's now has an owner that's putting money into it that's going to revitalize it. And I'm very pleased with how this came back to us. I think the colors, I mean, normally I wouldn't say paint brick, but this house really needed that. The brick is not going to be fixed otherwise, and the colors were beautiful. I just, very, very pleased. I think this is going to be a beautiful building beside another beautiful building. So just, I think this program really helps us to get our owners of buildings to invest their money as well, because it's just an incentive, and it also acknowledges that we care about our downtown. So yes, I'm very pleased with this one.
Thank you, Councillor Alfred.
Yes, I very much appreciate Mr. Bartlow's investment and the investment of time from the committee. I love the color scheme. I think it's going to be very attractive. If I think back to the first presentation we had on this, and there was a garbage box or something, if I recall rightly, that was included in the first pass with this. So I'm glad to see that this is confining itself to the spirit of, or what I interpret the spirit of the CIP to be. So I'm glad to see that it's come back with this much in it. Thank you.
Thank you. Councilor McKenna?
Just, I know there's a lot of effort gone into this, and when we get a chance to review this whole process again, when I think about, and the CEO can not comment tonight, but can think about this, is just, you talk about the amount of effort to expel $10,000. So I just want to make sure, I value the program, it's just that the amount of time and effort that's going into this for our expending $10,000, I just, when we look at that, we want to make sure we're getting good value out of that. And it's just I don't have the details, and I don't want them, but as long as it's somehow, it's worth it, that's what I'm hoping. And I don't know, when we look at this program, we'll have a chance to look at that as well.
C.L. Morse?
Thank you, Mr. Chair. So I guess a quick response would be that the value, I think, comes in the cumulative impact of all the improvements that we're seeing around town. And I think it probably highlights the difference between the public and private sector, where not everything we do can be assigned a cost. And I'd be remiss if I didn't say there's a lot of volunteer hours that go into this kind of work as well. So I think on balance, it may not show up on the balance sheet, but I think it shows up in the complexion of the community, particularly downtown.
Yes, so I think there's consensus here, and let's not forget that the owner of the building is putting out quite a bit of skin in the game too. So, and I do want to thank the volunteers that help out with Carl and Mary. So I think we have consensus, and that will be coming forward this evening, and get that one done too. So you're still up there with the CIP program evaluation criteria report. Carl?
Thank you, Mr. Chair, and certainly to respond to Councillor McKenna's very valid comments as well. That's one of the items that we're looking at as well through this report and the process of considering our evaluation criteria. So as Council knows, the CAP Evaluation Committee is made up of a number of employees, members of the public, and also representatives of various organizations that have a stake in our downtown core and in the mandate that the CAP program looks to promote. So the CAP document itself was adopted by Council. It contains a number of broad parameters for what we look for in the four programs that are available, and I think we've had a lot of conversation lately over Program 1. That's probably the smallest financial investment of the programs, but it has pretty big bang for your buck in terms of when you're driving down the street and you see the changes that can be the positive changes in our community from a successful program. So the CAP Evaluation Committee uses evaluation guidelines to score applications and assess whether they're worthy of funding. The evaluation criteria, as per the document, are adopted by the document delegates approval authority to the CAP Evaluation Committee to determine how to set forward the criteria. However, the CAP Committee, they want to make sure that their perception is aligned with Council's when we're looking at applications under Program 1. So I think we've had some excellent meetings and very robust conversations, and certainly we have a variety of very good perspectives and often different perspectives that the various committee members bring forward, and that's resulted occasionally in recommendations that aren't unanimous, and that's certainly healthy as far as vigorous debate goes. But with new staff and new committee members coming on board, we felt it was a good time now, especially with a couple of applications that have resulted in a lot of discussion, to take a look at the evaluation criteria that we use for assessing CIP applications and really have that discussion as what is it that we value in a CIP application and what do we want to see. So the committee and staff wanted to create, sort of have a refresh on the evaluation criteria and present essentially what could be a checklist for the applicant. So when somebody's looking at undertaking an application, there's a lot of supporting information we provide, but we also think that this is a very helpful piece of supporting information that gives a little bit of checklist, gives a checklist of the sorts of things that we're looking for, and we wanted to base that off of grounded in the design guidelines for the downtown core and the waterfront revitalization, downtown integration master plan. So these are foundational documents that speak to the importance of place in our downtown core, and the CAP program is an important tool that implements that. So the committee, and again, I'd like to acknowledge the work of certainly planning staff, as well as our a working group consisting of Council Rep Chris McGuire and Committee Chair Irv Mazurkowitz. I've worked very hard over the last couple of months formulating the draft evaluation criteria for CIP applications. This was presented and endorsed in principle by the CIP Evaluation Committee, and I'd like to take it to council for a broad overview and look for council's support in principle for these evaluation criteria. So I'll welcome any comments.
Councillor Alford has one.
I'm just more. I may even need to consult the CAO. I'm supportive of having evaluation, a tighter evaluation on these applications. But did we not, just a week or two ago, say that we were going to revisit the entire program because it's now 5 years old? Was that not what we discussed? And so I'm asking whether, in going forward with evaluation criteria when we haven't revisited the actual program, and I don't know what, I'm assuming this one is specifically for program 1, which is the facade stuff, but probably the higher ticket items come with the next 3. So I'm just wondering why, a cart before the horse, and will we be continuing that? Would we not, before we go any further, well, I'm supportive of this particular report, but would we be doing the program review before we go any farther?
Theo Morris.
So valid question for sure. So yes, the plan is to review the entire program. I think the evaluation committee felt that this was low-hanging fruit that they could address right now, because it may take some time for the full evaluation to occur. I'm not sure of the time frame, but it's likely going to be later this year before we get to the entire program. So they felt there was some obvious evolution of part 1 elements that they wanted to bring forward now. So I think to answer your question, I think the cart and the horse might be neck and neck, but we'll hitch them up by the end of the year. If I can use that analogy.
I'm supportive of the renewed evaluation criteria, and I think it probably addresses some of the gaps that we'd had before. So I'm supportive of that, but I would like to see the program review before we go any further or see.
Any other questions or comments? Councillor Dwyer.
Thanks. Just a note to say huge thanks to the working group. I think it's a great step in the right direction, and hopefully it creates a more streamlined program that reduces the amount of time that staff are spending on the review. To Councillor McKenna's point from earlier, I mean, it would be really nice to be able to very clearly articulate what is expected when people walk in with an application, and to kind of quantify that for them, so that the subsequent application is that much more tailored and involves that much less staff time to handhold through. So kudos to you guys. I think your hard work really paid off, and hopefully the rollout of this and the application of the principles applies equally. So thank you.
Okay, I think there's support, and thanks again. And, we are dealing with public money here, so the more due diligence, the better, in my view. So do we need to formalize this in a motion? Okay, so that'll come forward in the future. Councilor Barr.
Can we get consensus on Councillor Alfred's comments of, do we want to keep going through program reviews, or do we want to do the CIP review? Because I think a significant amount of staff time goes into coming up with something like this. And it is, there's a fixed amount of time for this kind of stuff, so I think it'd be helpful to have direction on what's the priority.
Councilor Allen?
I agree with that. I think that makes sense. I agree with the criteria, and I like the idea, but I think we should look at the program and then do it. I would be in agreement.
Can we
with
not
that.
do both?
At the same time, you mean?
I'll do this now,
Yeah.
Yes.
and then review the whole thing.
Yeah, sorry, but to clarify, so there's 5 programs that all need evaluation
Yeah.
criteria to be
Yeah.
looked at again. This stuff's excellent, but it takes a lot of resources to put into it. So do we want to do the whole CIP program review, or do we want to keep trucking away at these criteria evaluation sheets?
I want to do both. Councilor Alfred?
I envision that we would do the program review on the entire CIP program. We're going to, who knows, when that's done, these criteria may need to change a wee bit later on, but we can use the new ones that have been crafted
Yeah.
by the committee now.
Yeah.
That was my,
That was my understanding.
but the program review of all of it, before we go changing any other criteria, the program review needed to be done.
CO Morris?
So I would submit the only risk in doing part 1 now would be if council decides to scrap the CIP program. But my sense is that's probably not going to happen. So I think if we were to implement the part 1 and continue to work on the rest of it, I think it's a workload issue for a largely volunteer group of people.
Yeah, I think there's consensus on part 1. It's whether we do part 2 or whether we do the review. And I think I'm hearing consensus to do the overall CIP review before reviewing the criteria for part 2.
Yeah.
Okay, thank you.
You okay with that? Okay. Where's mine? Thank you, Carl.
Thank you.
Oh, sorry. Yes.
One more question, because I'm not at all familiar with the committee or how it works, but do we currently have, how many staff have we currently got working on this committee? Because it seems like there's a lot of names.
We have 3 staff. We have 4 staff.
So both planning staff, our treasurer, Becky, that's a lot. Okay, that'll probably come up in the review.
Okay.
Thank you.
Did I cut you off, Carl? Did you have something? Okay.
Oh, no, I think
You're good?
I appreciate the feedback and the direction.
Okay. Item E, Michelle's Doorway to Splendor, sign bylaw exception. Director Costello.
Thank you. This was brought up at our last committee of the whole as part of a CIP application. At that time, we carved off the sign variance portion, and we're bringing it forward this evening. The applicant has filled out a sign permit application. Within that application, there are 3 variances that were found. The first variance would be to allow 2 signs on the exterior. There would be a fascia and a projecting sign. The second variance would be regarding height, regarding the projection of the sign. The bylaw allows for 3 feet. The sign in question is 3 feet and 16, 3 and 16 inches feet, which is 38 inches. And the third variance would be regarding the height of the sign. We usually ask for it to be 10 feet. The sign being proposed is 8.6 feet from the finished grade. This has gone through Public Works, who don't have an issue with that height restriction. Based on this, all 3 variances are being recommended for council approval.
Okay. I see nodding heads all around the table, so we'll do that tonight.
Yes, please, thank you.
Okay. Interim tax bylaw with Treasurer Cozile. We have to pay our bills. I think that's their message.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. So I'm here this evening seeking council's authorization of a bylaw to impose an interim tax levy for all property tax classes. And the interim levy is required to provide the necessary cash flow to meet the obligations of the town until the annual tax rates are set and final, final notices are prepared approximately the end of May. And she will have the tax bills prepared the first week of February.
Okay. I think this is the reality, and yes, indeed. And we'll formalize that in a few minutes. Okay, I'll entertain a motion for adjournment. Councillor Dwyer, Councillor McGuire. All in favor? Just because it rhymes.
Okay, I've got everything ready. You're the best. I try. I'm not perfect, but I wish.
Lorraine, you're going to do the interim tax levy for 2020 bills so we can get those out.
Yes. Yes. Wendy, can I get you to sign those, my dear? Yes.
Oh, Corey. Okay, so Chris McGuire. Here, Robert. All right, sweet.
Wendy L. Excuse me. Lorraine Allen. Nikki Dwyer. There you go.
Thank you. You're the best.
Really, but, I'll try.
think Corey's ready. Good evening. Welcome to this special meeting of Smiths Falls Town Council for Monday, January 27th. We have all of council here. My only announcement this evening is, as we are having a special meeting of council tonight, on committee the whole night, we will have no meeting next Monday. I'll ask for disclosure of monetary interest. There are none. We have no delegations. We have no adoption of minutes. I'll check in and see if any member of council has any reports. Councillor Allen? No. Councillor McKenna? Councillor Alford? Councillor Dwyer? McGuire? Go ahead. We need someone to have a report here.
I was thinking next Monday, but we had our Police Services Board meeting last Thursday. Busy December and January for the police service, or for the police service. The mental health nurse funding expires in the end of March, so we're definitely cognizant of that, and great results coming from that. We got the 2019 quarterly report for the mental health calls, and overall the number of calls are fairly consistent, but the apprehension rate, the amount of times that they have to come with a police officer to the hospital, is decreasing steadily. So hopefully we see that trend continue. Also, the average wait time seems to be going down. So great data coming out of the mental health nurse at the police service. Is there anything I forgot there? All right,
good.
That's our report for
Thank you. Councillor Brennan? No. Thank you. Okay, we have a number of bylaws this evening. I'm going to start with Councillor Alford, please.
Thank you, Your Worship. Moved by myself, seconded by... Thank you, Your Worship. Moved by myself, seconded by Councillor McKenna. That a bylaw to adopt estimates of the sums required for municipal purposes for the year 2020 be now read a third time and finally passed, signed, sealed, and numbered 10108-2020.
Any discussion, Councillor Alford?
Yes, Your Worship. As it states, this is third reading. We considered this at our last meeting. This establishes the bylaw to pass the town's 2020 budget. Residential water bills will increase by 1.9%, which is the cost of living. Property taxes will increase by $14.09, or 0.153%, which reflects the growth in assessment, and that is enough this year that it does not need for the town's tax rate to change.
So that would be the average,
Average.
increase on the average assessed
14
residential
on.
property in town.
Yes, sir.
Yes. Okay. Any further discussion? Councillor Brennan?
Yeah, I was ill when we did the first and second, so I just want to chime in with my support for it. It's affordable, and yet I don't think in the years that I've been here, I've seen so much capital being done. So we've turned a corner, and as tradition will have it, I'd ask for a recorded vote.
Okay, third reading, a recorded vote has been requested. Oh, sorry, yes, okay. It's moved by Councillor Alford, second by Councillor McKenna, bylaw 10108-2020. That the bylaw to adopt estimates of the sums required for the municipal purposes for the year 2020, being now read a third time and finally passed, signed, sealed, and numbered 10108-2020. Recorded vote has been requested.
With respect to bylaw 10108-2020, please state yea or nay. Councillor Alford?
Yay.
Councillor Allen?
Yay.
Councillor Brennan?
Yay.
Councillor Dwyer?
Yay.
Councillor McGuire?
Yay.
Councillor Councillor McKenna?
Yay.
Mayor Panko?
Yay.
Carried.
Thank you. And Councillor Brennan, you're up next.
Thank you. Moved by myself, seconded by Councillor McGuire, that a bylaw to confirm the proceedings of the Council of the Corporation of the Town of Smith Falls at its meetings on the 2nd, 16th, and 16th day of December 2019 be received and read a first time and taken as read a second time.
Thank you. Moved by Councillor Brennan, second by Councillor McGuire, bylaw 10110-2020. The bylaw to confirm the proceedings of the Council of the Corporation of the Town of Smiths Falls at its meetings held on the 2nd and 16th days of December 2019. Be received, read a first time, and taken as read a second time. All in favor? Carried. Discussion, Councilor Brennan?
Formalizes those two meetings in our minutes.
Thank you. Third reading, please.
Moved by myself, seconded by Councilor McGuire, that a bylaw to confirm the proceedings of the Council of the Corporation of the Town of Smith Falls at its meetings held on the 2nd and 16th day of December 2019 be now read a third time and finally passed, signed, sealed, and numbered 101102220.
Thank you. Moved by Councilor Brennan, second by Councilor McGuire, bylaw 10110-2020, that a bylaw to confirm the proceedings of the Council of the Corporation of the Town of Smith Falls at its meetings held on the 2nd and 16th days of December 2019 be now read a third time and finally passed, signed, sealed, and numbered 10110-2020. All in favor? Carried. Okay, Councilor Dwyer, you're up next.
Thank you. Moved by myself, seconded by Councillor McGuire, that a bylaw to authorize a purchase and sale agreement be received and read a first time and taken and read a second time.
Thank you. Moved by Councilor Dwyer, seconded by Councilor McGuire, bylaw 10111-2020, the bylaw to authorize a purchase and sale agreement be received, read a first time, and taken as read a second time. All in favor? Carried. Discussion, Councilor Dwyer?
Thank you. This is a matter that was discussed at the last committee of the whole. I'm going to look to CAO Morris, but I believe this is the lands off Ferguson? Ferreira? Off Ferreira Drive. It's a large parcel of land. The municipality has the ability to acquire it, and we are choosing to execute that right.
Thank you. Any further discussion? Third reading, please.
Thank you. Moved by myself, seconded by Councillor McGuire, that a bylaw to authorize an agreement of purchase and sale be now read a third time and finally passed, signed, sealed, and numbered 10111-2020.
Thank you. Moved by Councilor Dwyer, second by Councilor McGuire, bylaw 10111-2020, the bylaw to authorize a purchase and sale agreement be now read a third time and finally passed, signed, sealed, and numbered 10111-2020. All in favor? Carried. And Councilor McGuire, you have the next bylaw.
Thank you, Your Worship. Moved by myself and seconded by Councillor Dwyer that a bylaw to authorize an exemption to bylaw 601894 as amended, being a bylaw for prohibiting or regulating the erection of signs, advertising devices, posting of notices, portable signs, and merchandise displays within the town of Smith Falls be received and read a first time and taken as read a second time.
It's moved by Councilor McGuire, second by Councilor Dwyer, bylaw 10112-2020, the bylaw to authorize an exemption to bylaw 6018-94 as amended, being the bylaw for prohibiting or regulating the erection of signs, advertising devices, posting of notices, portable signs, and merchandise displays within the town of Smith Falls be received read a first time and taken as read a second time. All in favor? Carried. Discussion, Councilor McGuire?
This is in follow-up to the CIP award to Michelle's Doorway to Splendor. The sign proposed didn't quite match the existing sign bylaw, so this exemption is to let her go ahead with the proposed plan and give a more pedestrian, engaging experience in the downtown.
Thank you. Any further discussion? Third reading, please.
Moved by myself and seconded by Councillor Dwyer that a bylaw to authorize an exemption to bylaw 6018-94 as amended, being a bylaw for prohibiting or regulating the erection of signs, advertising devices, posting of notices, portable signs, and merchandise displays within the town of Smith Falls be now read a third time and finally passed, signed, sealed, and numbered 10112-2020.
Thank you. Moved by Councilor McGuire, second by Councilor Dwyer, bylaw 10112-2020, that a bylaw to authorize an exemption to bylaw 6018-94 as amended, being a bylaw for prohibiting or regulating the erection of signs, advertising devices, posting of notices, portable signs, and merchandise displays within the town of Smith Falls be now read a third time and finally passed, signed, sealed, and numbered 10112-2020. All in favor? Carried. And Councilor McKenna, you're up next.
Thank you. Moved by myself and seconded by Councillor Alford that a bylaw to adopt an emergency management program and emergency management response plan be received and read a first time and taken as read a second time.
Thank you. Moved by Councilor McKenna, second by Councilor Alford, bylaw 10113-2020, the bylaw to adopt an emergency management program and emergency management response plan be received and read a first time and taken as read a second time. All in favor? Carried. Discussion, Councillor McKenna?
Yes, Your Worship, many of you have heard us talk about the hundreds of regulations that guide municipalities in Ontario, and most of these are in the best interest of the citizens of Ontario, and this is another good one. The town of Smiths Falls must comply with the Emergency Management Act and have an emergency plan in place. And each year, under the leadership of Chief Riseborough, all the documents and proof that we have a plan and that our plan is ready to go must be submitted and approved by the Ministry of Health. And this does that, approves the bylaw that governs that. It just tweaks the bylaw a little bit that staff would have the ability to, under the appendix, to change the contact list. So it's a good piece. I hope we never need to use it, but as St. John's recently saw, emergency plans do come about, and this is a good one.
Thank you. Any further discussion? Can I have a third reading, please?
So again, moved by myself, second by Councillor Alford, that a bylaw to adopt an emergency management program and emergency management response plan be now read a third time, and finally passed, signed, sealed, and numbered.
Thank you. Moved by Councillor McKenna, second by Councillor Alford, bylaw 10113-2020, the bylaw to adopt an emergency management program and emergency management response plan be now read a third time and finally passed, signed, sealed, and numbered 10113-2020. All in favor? Carried. Councillor Alford, you have a bylaw 7.6.
Thank you, Your Worship. Moved by myself, seconded by Councillor Allen, that a bylaw to authorize cost recovery fees with respect to the fire department be received and read a first time and taken as read a second time.
Thank you. Moved by Councillor Alford, seconded by Councillor Allen, bylaw 10114-2020, the bylaw to authorize cost recovery fees with respect to the fire department be received and read a first time and taken as read a second time. All in favor? Carried. Discussion, Councillor Alford?
Yes, Your Worship. We, in 2018, entered in an agreement between Firemark and the town of Smiths Falls. Firemark's a company that collects fees from residents, insurance companies, when they've had a fire. The money's collected from coverage, which is included in most home insurance policies. Recently, there was on appeal some wording that needed to be changed to ensure that that agreement stays, continues. And so this is really just a housekeeping issue to change some of the wording in the bylaw based on an appeal, a Court of Appeal decision.
Any further discussion? Third reading, please.
Yes, moved by myself, seconded by Councillor Allen, that a bylaw to authorize cost recovery fees with respect to the fire department be now read a third time and finally passed, signed, sealed, and numbered 10114-2020.
Thank you. Moved by Councillor Alford, seconded by Councillor Allen, bylaw 10114-2020, the bylaw to authorize cost recovery fees with respect to the fire department be now read a third time and finally passed, signed, sealed, and numbered 10114-2020. All in favor? Carried. Councillor Allen, you're up next.
Yes, moved by myself and seconded by Councillor Alford, bylaw 10115-2020, that a bylaw to impose an interim tax levy for the year 2020 on properties within all tax classes be received and read a first time and taken as read a second time.
Thank you. Moved by Councillor Allen, seconded by Councillor Alford, bylaw 10115-2020, the bylaw to impose an interim tax levy for the year 2020 on properties within all tax classes be received and read the first time and taken as read a second time. All in favor? Carried. Discussion, Councillor Allen?
Yes, this is, allows us to do interim taxes, so we collect 50% of the tax levy, and so we have a cash flow. It also eases the payment burden to the taxpayer by stretching it over 4 annual tax installments.
Thank you. Any further discussion? Third reading, please.
Moved by myself and seconded by Councillor Alford, bylaw 10115-2020, that a bylaw to impose an interim tax levy for the year 2020 on properties within all tax classes be now read a third time and finally passed, signed, sealed, and numbered 10115-2020.
Thank you. Moved by Councillor Allen, seconded by Councillor Alford, bylaw 10115-2020, that a bylaw to impose an interim tax levy for the year 2020 on properties within all tax classes being now read a third time and finally passed, signed, sealed, and numbered 10115-2020. All in favor? Carried. Our final bylaw is with Councillor Dwyer, please.
Thank you. Moved by myself, seconded by Councillor Allen, that a bylaw to authorize execution of funding agreement with Pat Barlow respecting the property known as 14 William Street West be received and read a first time and taken and read a second time.
Thank you. Moved by Councillor Dwyer, seconded by Councillor Allen. Bylaw 10116-2020, the bylaw to authorize execution of a funding agreement with Pat Barlow respecting the property known as 14 William Street West be received and read a first time and taken as read a second time. All in favor? Carried. Discussion, Councillor Dwyer?
Thank you. The purpose of the agreement is to authorize the release of matching funds for a renovation project at 14 William Street. The funds are coming from the Community Improvement Program. It's a great example of a project to renovate a former restaurant into 2 residential units in our downtown core. I know our staff and volunteer committee have worked hard to bring the property into conformity with the design guidelines and the vision statement of the program, and we're pleased to be awarding the funds tonight.
Thank you. Any further discussion? For third reading, please.
Thank you. Moved by myself, seconded by Councillor Allen, that a bylaw to authorize execution of a funding agreement with Pat Barlow respecting the property known as 14 William Street West be now read a third time and finally passed, signed, sealed, and numbered 10116-2020.
Thank you. Moved by Councillor Dwyer, seconded by Councillor Allen, bylaw 10116-2020, the bylaw to authorize execution of a funding agreement with Pat Barlow respecting the property known as 14 William Street West, be now read a third time and finally passed, signed, sealed, and numbered 10116-2020. All in favor? Carried. Any inquiries or announcements? Guess not. Councillor Dwyer, you have the motion for adjournment, I believe.
Moved by myself, seconded by Councillor McGuire, that this council adjourn its proceedings at 7:07 p.m. and stand so adjourned until the next duly called meeting of council.
Thank you. Moved by Councillor Dwyer, second by Councillor McGuire. Adjournment. This council adjourns proceedings at 7:07 p.m. and stands so adjourned until the next duly called meeting of council. All in favor? We're adjourned.